You've got to know that we've got another session lined up before we break. And this time around, we have a presentation on what it takes to create and launch a common OAH currency, the South African experience. So, to share with us, we welcome on a stage the CEO of Prime Media and the Chairman, Out of Home Measurement Council, South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, with a loud round of applause, please join us in welcoming on the stage Mr. Dave Roberts. A huge round of applause, please. Welcome. Good afternoon.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here. It's my first trip to India, and I really my eyes have popped. I did a drive around the city the other day, and it certainly is a busy city, and it was very encouraging to spend some time around. So I'm here to talk about out-of-home currency. You would have seen quite a few of the presenters today and yesterday were talking about measurement and all that kind of stuff. So as an industry, we took a leap a few years ago, and hopefully I can pass on some of those learnings and that you can avoid some of the mistakes we made, because they did land up costing us a bit of money, which in hindsight, that's how it goes. So what about, the question is, why a currency and statistics? Well, why do we want a currency? Because stats are cool. Stats are very cool. Now, they're so cool that when I was at university, I actually did it twice, because stats and me weren't one at that point in my life. So with them being cool, I'm going to show you how cool some stats are. Just have a look at these stats. So there's the all-time test batting records from some cricketers, which I'm sure you'll recognize some of their names. Sachin Tendulkar, Ponting, Cullis, and Rahul Dravid. So if we said, well, those are statistics, there's statistics next to them, and if we said for a moment that they are billboards, so the obvious thing would be, well, the best billboard would be Tendulkar, the most runs. Then I would put it to you that perhaps if we look a bit further into the statistics, there would be something different. So you look down the averages, and you see Jacques Cullis happens to be South African like me at 55. So I would argue that he's a better billboard than Tendulkar. And if you look down at the bottom, where Cullis is the second best all-rounder of all time, and you would say, well, perhaps he's got a little bit more to his batting or more to his audience. Perhaps he's a bit of a multi-sided panel, or even in today's language, an LED. And so you can see it's quite exciting statistics. So how do we go from there? So in the South African media landscape, we have 3-4 big companies on the left-hand side of the chart, and then a couple of medium-sized ones, and then at the end we've got 150 media owners that have less than 100 billboards. So it's very, very fragmented, very, very difficult to get all those people around the same table to talk about this kind of initiative. So one of the challenges that we had, there's a huge level of distrust between small media owners and big media owners. The small media owners think the big media owners just want to gobble them up and use their dominance to achieve better revenues. And we have that metric going on all the time, and it's something that is still prevalent today, and I think will be for some time to come. The other thing that we have in our country, unfortunately, is there's a lack of integrity in our industry. A lot of media owners, outdoor owners, when it comes to financial contributions to associations and the kind of initiative that we put in place, if it's a self-honesty thing, it's not going to work. So it's something that we had to overcome, and it's something that hopefully you guys don't have that same problem, and you have more integrity than our industry. In the past, we had research was conducted by the South African Advertising Research Foundation, and it was funded by a 1% MRT levy with Marketing Industries Trust. That levy was an add-on to a media invoice to an advertiser, and unfortunately what happened very quickly was that the advertisers said, no, we're not paying the add-on, you pay it out of what we pay you. So it soon became a cost for the industry, and it was challenging in that, again, with the lack of integrity, a lot of people collected that money or then didn't pay it over. So the contribution from the out-of-home to SAF was very, very underrepresented or underfunded. The end result is that the surveys that SAF did, which was called the All Media Product Survey, which was an acronym of AMPS, and the problem that we encountered was the out-of-home industry had very, very little say in that survey, and ultimately we paid quite a bit of money, notwithstanding not everyone paid, and we got rubbish in return. In the early 2000s, we pioneered the use of GPS technology with people moving around and we got to a point, at that point in time, it was just too expensive to roll out. And we also had an individual from America, a fellow by the name of Roger Percy, who, funny enough, took out a patent on that technology and combined it with out-of-home research. When we wanted to start getting going again, his charge, or the amount of money he wanted to charge us to use the patent was exorbitant, so we moved on. And then we use, I would imagine, you probably do the same, traffic counts, again with integrity being a problem, the same road, the same cars, two different media owners that have a very vastly different traffic count. So we needed something that would allow us to have a greater level of transparency and a greater level of accuracy in calculating, and we needed to offer the industry something that would really work and be accountable and accurate. So the vision of the OMC, the Out-of-Home Measurement Council of South Africa, is to produce consolidated, inclusive, representative research covering all out-of-home areas in the South African market. The billboard sector, roadside static billboards, constitute more than 50% of the market. So therefore, at this point in time, our study has focused on that, and the rest will follow as and when funding is available to do so. We needed to build credibility in the out-of-home industry, and we also would like to represent the out-of-home industry at global get-togethers, arenas like the OAAA, the FEPI, and I can also add the OAC now to the list, which is great. And as I said, it was the static roadside that we started. The real purpose was to drive growth, and I think it's been said a number of times out today, to increase the out-of-home share of ad spend. And what drove us, our thinking quite significantly, was the example in the UK, where they went up from the early 2000s, and their market share went up to the 9-10%. I think it was around 4% at the time. And Australia, also significant growth, over 7 consecutive years of growth in terms of ad spend. And if you actually take that, given the media power with print in decline, digital rising, that's quite significant. So that was sort of at the back of my mind at all times. So our journey started in 2011, and I'll just go through this quite quickly. We got to a point in 2013 where we needed to start finding a place where how we were going to do this. At that point in time, we started engaging with Daniel Cuende Informatics, Spanish company, who had a different approach, and the technology that was available now was not necessarily available back in the early 2000s, or 10 or 5 years ago even. So we were able to chat with him and get it going. And we basically started in 2014, where we appointed a research company, Ask Africa, to go to field with a questionnaire to do a travel survey. And we then also appointed a technical committee headed by Cooper Research, a South African research company as well, to keep everyone honest, to make sure that what Ask Africa were doing was right, etc. And then we moved along into 2014, where we launched the JIC. Unfortunately, we only had 4 members, the 4 big members in the industry joining, and starting to fund the program. And we then had 2015, and that was a big problem, a big issue that we had. The travel survey that we conducted in 2014 was not acceptable. The results weren't good enough. And if I can advise you guys, if you go down a road, get that part of it done properly first. We didn't plan sufficiently. We were rushed in going to that travel survey, and we wasted a lot of money. So we basically discarded the 2014 survey and used it as a very expensive test, and then went back to field in 2015, got the 2015 results out in 2016, and then at that point in time, all the participants gave the inventory to Cuende, who then started to map it and started to calculate, do the audience calculations. And into 2017, the latter half of 2016, we launched it province by province, and then into 2017, the whole country's done. And now it's really getting the usership up through the agencies and membership. We've got a plan in terms of increasing the membership in the industry in the country. So effectively, the standards that we followed was an integrated approach, the travel survey, the traffic weighting, panel classification, and visibility. A lot of that's done by Qende, and it made it quite easy given the technology that he has available. We followed the SMR guidelines for out-of-home audience measurement. The measurement, the combination of survey data, mobility modeling, and ultimately get to a cost of measurement at an acceptable level. The out-of-home currency framework, as you can see there, you've got the media owner inventory on the left-hand side, and visibility, and then going across satellite imagery, the traffic survey. We have 15,000 respondents, 2 waves of surveys, 7,500 the first half of the year, 7,500 the second half of the year, and that also builds up over each year that we add to it. Traffic model, audience calculation, and then the ratings, and we use those ratings through the application of the Telmos quantum software. One of the things that a few challenges we had is that our country is much smaller than a country like India, and the cities, so we covered off towns up to 8,000 people per town. That was the smallest. We couldn't go to deep rural areas because the sample wasn't big enough, and to get to a sample that would be big enough, we would have had to increase it by 4 times. So that would have been about 60 thousand, and it becomes very, very expensive. So we limited it to that, and what we will do is, as the sample rolls each year, we will slowly increase the footprint of the survey. Another issue that's quite unusual in our country is that some of the cities are quite close together, so we had to do it at a district municipality level as opposed to city by city, because people travel from one city to the next. So the example there, Johannesburg, Pretoria, Benoni are probably not even 60 kilometers apart. Once we launched it to the industry, we went to obviously the agencies and the advertisers. We also launched to the media owner industry, the guys that had not joined from the start. The agencies were very happy with it. They loved the numbers that they were getting out of it. They were a bit concerned that it wasn't inclusive. There's about 65 to 70% of the inventory available in the country is represented through the sample or through the members, but there's still some portion that aren't. And there's also a big drive in South Africa around small business. So if you're excluding small business, then you're deemed to be a really bad guy. So we have to deal with that dynamic. The media owners, the guys that did not join up front, were all on about cost, and you need to spend a lot of time kicking that ball down around, because who pays for this thing and how much each person pays is a very, very hot topic. So we had smaller guys saying they want to go on a per panel rate, which is a bit distorted because in our world, no panel is equal, so it's quite difficult to allocate an equal cost to every panel. So we landed up following guidelines from Qende with tiers, which I'll speak to just now. What we are seeing in the last 6 months is that clients are starting to use the statistics. They're starting to request them, and I think the holy grail will be when advertisers say, I'm not going to buy inventory that does not have the stats. Then you will see everyone will fall in and buy the product, or join the OMC and put the inventory into the system. Just a case study. This is a real case study. It happened in our business. On the left-hand side, a very big billboard, more like a wrap type of billboard, about 4 meters up, 120 meters across, adjacent to a freeway. It had, if you just look at the metrics, it had reach of just under 3%, cost per GRP of 13,000 Rand, and cost per 1,000 of 55 Rand. So just for those, when I'm talking in South African currency, you can multiply by 5 to get into Indian rupees, so you can get an idea. You're working out for yourselves. We proposed to that client to go for 6 spectacular national billboards, similar level of cost, increase the reach to 11%, cost per 1,760, and that's really, really cheap, guys, especially when you compare to other media products. So it's a competitive advantage within the out-of-home industry. And then I'll get to an example just now of TV. But from a strategic, so to target what you want to do, so if you have an audience of 25 to 55, you want a national campaign, you can then quite finitely determine the number of panels and then the budget to achieve those objectives. So you can see there a reach of 36.6%, cost per 1,760, and that's also really, really cheap. So this is a cool one. If you look on the left-hand side, an out-of-home campaign, reaching 25 to 55, a budget of 500,000 Rand, 20 out-of-home panels, reach of 31, cost per GRP of 1,110, cost per 1,000, 860, number of panels, 20. It was a 2-month campaign. If we compare a similar amount of budget for TV to achieve the same audience objectives, slightly higher reach at 41, but cost per GRP of 4,000, quite significantly higher, cost per 1,000, 22 Rand, nearly 2.5 times more. And you only had 40 insertions. So it's relatively what it does. What this has told us is that out-of-home is cheap, and we need to convince more advertisers how cheap it is, and then hopefully we can get the holy grail of out-of-home, which is price is your friend and occupancy is your very best friend. So if we can drive those two in the right direction, then we'll all be very happy. So this is just an example of how the campaign can be used to build the reach build. As I think the panel said earlier, the reach build is quite quick and outdoor, and then the total number of impacts as it goes into a 12-month campaign. So the expectations from the marketplace was to deliver media metrics, which we've achieved. Revenue growth, not yet. It's still coming. We're still in our infancy, and we anticipate that should start coming through if we follow the Australian and the UK examples and others around the world. To get establish a supervised practice for the collection. So in other words, to make it a standard, make it a high quality, as opposed to the sort of bits and bobs that we used to do in the past. And education and training, what we are finding are the ad agencies, the media buyers, a lot of them are crusty old guys who've been there a long time, who sort of know every structure by sight, and they are a bit reluctant and a bit resistant. But this is a disruptor, like Uber is a disruptor, and many other technologies in the world. This is a disruptor for the media buyers in South Africa. They need to embrace it and use it as, and ultimately, if you look at, and I think in the UK, you will see procurement departments are probably doing a lot more of the purchasing than the brand managers and marketing managers. And procurement managers want stats, they want returns, they want something they compare A to B, and ultimately, we need to make sure that they have those tools at their disposal, and so a lot of training and educating of the users is taking place. We're doing that in conjunction with Telmar, who are the suppliers of the software. Our contractual model, so there's 3 elements of cost. So we have the OMC, the company at the top. We have what we call a not-for-profit company in South Africa. I don't know if you have a similar thing here, but it's basically, we are designing it not to make a profit. So the costs, when we set the budgets each year, the budgets are set, and that's what we recover from the members. So we don't want a levy that's variable to turnover. We'll have more money or less money. If there's less money, who's going to fund the shortfall? So we say, right, that's how much money we need for 12 months. That's how much everyone's paying, and it's working so far. So the media owners contract with OMC, and they also contract directly for the software. So that's determined by the number of licenses you want to buy, and so that's an individual choice. And they also contract directly with Kwende to load your inventory up on their system. Then the OMC has, as I've said before, also contracts with Kwende in terms of establishing the total universe. Cooper Research is our technical committee, and Ask Africa is our research partner. The structure of our entity, so we've got the members like ourselves. We are shareholders of the company as well as directors, and the way we structured it, this was also quite a sticking point in our negotiations, was ultimately we worked on the system, on the rule that the more you pay, the more you say. So the guys who pay the most have more directors than the guys who pay less than them. And I think that's something that was, I know JC Deco is the other big partner in this, who at the time was Continental Outdoor Media. That was a non-negotiable for them. It was not going to be any other way. And ultimately, it probably goes with commerce and industry around the world. So that the OMC is there, that our board of directors is there. We have a technical committee, as I said, by Cooper Research. We have a marketing committee to get it out there, do the training, talk to the agencies, talk to potential new members. And then we have a user advisory panel, which is made up of the big shots in our media agency environment in South Africa. We meet with them 2 to 3 times a year, where we discuss what we're doing, we get advice, we get some pointers as to where we need to go and what we need to do. And then those are the tiers that we hope to get to one day. OMC static roadside is where we are at the moment, and our survey is called ROAD, which stands for Roadside Audience Data. And we will roll into static, transit static, which is your airports, moving transit, et cetera, et cetera. The airports is a bit stuck at the moment because all the airports in South Africa are out on tender, and no one wants to dip their hand in their pocket to do research on the airport space, given that they may not have a site there come about 12 months' time. And then that all flows in the travel survey, and the whole industry is getting together to do an establishment survey, which is something that will come down the line. So this was probably one of the most debated issues that we had, and you're probably going to have to, you will probably, if you're going to develop a currency, this is where you're going to spend ages of time and a lot of negotiating to get this right. So Daniel Kwende had these tiers on the left-hand side. Unfortunately, it says tier 5, it should be tier 4. I spotted that too late to change. And he has different rates applying to that. And so what we did, because we have a long tail of small businesses, we increased the number of tiers to allow a lower cost per smaller business unit. What we also facilitated is where small businesses can form a syndicate to join. So if a guy's got 50 billboards and another guy's got 60, they can join together and come in at the lowest tier. So it's trying to just facilitate that. What we've also done in terms of getting some more membership on board is that the costs that are within the OMC's controls, which is really the travel survey and Cooper Research Technical and a bit of running costs, we've discounted heavily from July for 3 years, where we will start with a heavy discount in year 1, halve it by year 2, and then on stream by year 3. And we're probably not far away from getting a few more members. I met with some potential members a week or so ago, and I think the guys are coming on board. But there will be a point in time when agencies say, I ain't buying your stuff unless I've got metrics. Then everyone will flow forward. So this is something that is perhaps, I think, unique in South Africa. We give this data to the agencies for no cost. We don't charge them. Our agency environment, I think, I stand to be corrected, but I think most other markets, they get the agencies to contribute. It is something that we debated long and hard, but ultimately, I think us getting money out of the agency environment to fund this wasn't going to happen until such time as we got something up. It may change down the line, although once you've got it for free, it's very difficult to change that. The software licensing from Telmar is the subscription, so the number of licenses you use for your organization is the amount of money you pay. They have a very declining cost per license model, so you start the first one, it's about $800 a month, the second one's about $200, and the third one like 100, and then they get bigger, like 50 each. But it's still a quantum of money you've got to put aside each month to actually buy the licenses to use. The strategy for my organization is that we have the most licenses in the whole country, and that is because I've instructed my team that they have to be the best in the country at this. They've got to be the best, because it's going to come whether people resist it or not, it's going to happen. So my team, my sales team, my marketing team have been instructed to become very, very good at this. A lot of them are good. They're significantly better than I am at it. We have had some requests for other media broadcasters, etc., to look at our stuff, and we do that on an ad hoc basis. We haven't charged them yet. So the future, what are we thinking of doing? We obviously want to expand into the more rural and deeper rural areas, given the sample sizes, and we may do that if in a year we may reduce the sample size for the cities, because we would have had a collective sample that's rolled for a couple of years, and we may say, right, let's take that money and do the deeper rural areas, and to get that, maybe do that every 3-4 years, depending on. Obviously, the digital side, the one advantage we did have was during this process, Continental Outdoor Media was acquired by JC&Co. So we were fortunate enough to get some assistance from Neil Ediston, who's the CEO of, I think it's JC&Co One World in the UK, and he's very, very knowledgeable on this, and we were very appreciative of taking some guidance from him. Illumination, Kwende is working on illumination factor. which would increase ratings. It is something that I think is just some propeller head maths that he can do, so we should have that soon. As I said, the sample, we'll roll that through year after year, and then updates twice a year from as we get the release that we call release A, release B, release C, as we get them rolling. And so we'll have updates from the satellite imagery. So it stays current. You don't have to recount cars. You don't have to send more people to the field. So it's really, really technically a very, very able piece of software and intelligence that he has. So just to wrap up then, if I think there's two things. There's three. I've made a little acronym in my head, R, D, and C. Do your homework. Do some research on what would work in your Indian market. Work out what technology is available. There's a lot more tech now than there was some time ago. It's much easier to do given cellular technology, satellite technology. So do some homework on that. This is a very, very big country with lots and lots of people. So you need to apply your minds in that space. Do some, look at the rates and the costing. Spend some time, really kick that one around. Make sure that your membership and the greater body of out-of-home media owners in the country are on the bus. Try and get that done first. And I would suggest for the guys that are doubting Thomases that you don't want to join, take the plunge. This is going to happen, guys. You're going to have to do it. If you'd like to take these presentations here in the last few days, everyone has spoken about it. Virtually everyone mentions it at some point in time. The panel here today also. So again and again, it's coming. Get stuck in. Be a first mover in the space. And then, yeah, just deal with the research, the development, and the costs. And hopefully, in a year or two's time, you've got your Indian out-of-home metric in place. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Dave Roberts. We've got the Q&A that's going to happen right now, and it's happening with the three questions that have been chosen. And to ask them, I'm now going to invite onto stage the managing editor of VJ Media Works. Please welcome onto stage, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rajiv Raghunath. A loud round of applause.
Thank you, Dave, for a great presentation on a subject that is so very critical for the entire Indian OH industry. I really don't think I need to summarize or have any takeaways because your last slide said everything about, which are the key takeaways for us. I'll straight away get to the questions. It was very hard for me to select just 3 questions. There's so many that I would have missed. So I'll straight away get to the 3 questions. We'll finish this in 1 minute. Question number 1. This comes from M. Kumar of Jagran Engage, and he asks, assuming that from the presentation that the currency is proprietary, has it been seen as credible by advertisers and agencies alike? Has there been a spike in brands coming onto OOH post the availability of this currency? Any data to support?
I think we haven't had a spark yet. We're still too new, but we anticipate that that's going to come. And then the first part of the question is, has it got credibility? In fact, it actually has, because if you actually think of it, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Well, in the absence of any statistics to support out-of-home, these are being used. So it is gaining momentum.
The next question is from Lokesh from Icon, and he asks, with regard to panel classifications and ratings, what is the status in South Africa? Are the inventories dynamic or fixed for a specific period of time? If they are dynamic, what is the interval to revisit the classification?
Dynamic, I'm assuming we're looking at digital. Would that be right? So we're not there yet. And I think at the FEPI conference recently, we had Neil Edison talk. They're doing some, I think, Clear Channel, JC Deco, and 1 or 2 of the others are doing some research which they're going to share with the industry on a worldwide basis soon. Oh, sorry.
Yes.
I beg your pardon. The survey will be, the satellite survey and rating will happen twice a year. So if a media owner will bring their inventory in twice a year, send it to Kwende, and in that you will have sites that have been removed or sites that have been added. When we give all the inventory, it's got its GPS coordinates, angle to the road, size, illuminated, not illuminated, etc. And that happens twice a year.
Third question comes from Chandrasekhar Rao from Lakshya Hyderabad Airport Media Limited, and he asks that, in the Indian scenario, you just don't have to make very huge investments to be a media owner. There can be a very large number of them. In a scenario like that, when there are so many players, does that act as a roadblock for proceeding with the development of a common currency?
Look, obviously, I think from our experience, the more media players there are, the more difficult it is. I think if everyone's got to really put an industry hat on and to say this is for the good of the industry, it's not for the good of me at this point in time. If we get it right as an industry, it'll be good for me. Just so one quick one I forgot to mention in my presentation is our costs from inception to the end of June was 15 million rand, which is 75 million rupees, thereabouts. And I think quite significantly lower than what the Australians spent or what the UK spent. It's not even £1 million.
Dave, so which is the question that deserves the first prize?
I think the question number 1.
Question number 1, okay. The winner is M. Kumar from Jagran Engage.
Congratulations, 10,000 rupees, a check from Alak Advertising and Publicity waits for you on stage.
Well
Congratulations to you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together. This is fantastic, loads of excitement. Thank you so much, Mr. Dave Roberts. Thank you so much, Rajiv
Thanks, well done,
Raghunath. And congratulations
Thanks,
to you.
Pleasure.